I paused because we were just chit-chatting, but thanks, Adriana, for joining us. We have, you know me, but for anyone listening to this, again, I'm Osman Ahmed. I'm with Great Minnesota Schools, nonprofit education based in Minneapolis, advocating for children, great schools, and supporting community in Minneapolis, especially families who are underserved, low-income, families in Minneapolis. So we have Amanda to introduce, and also we have Harry to introduce himself from North News. And this, we don't have, I know, we're supposed to have a live videos, but we had some difficulties last forum where we couldn't share where we're doing this live on Facebook and social media. So we will leave that magic to Harry after the forum is done and we record it. But Amanda, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we have Harry introduce himself, and we have Adriana to introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, my name is Amanda Kunchbahari. I'm the Public Policy Director with the Citizens League. So we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. We've been around for over 60 years now and are technically located in St. Paul, but currently I'm located in my kitchen, as you can see. So really happy to be on here with you and to get to learn more about you.
And I'm Harry Colbert Jr. I'm the editor-in-chief of North News, which serves the North Minneapolis community, and District 4, the upper portion runs into North Minneapolis when we have the Bryn Mawr neighborhood. And thank you for joining us.
Harry, your voice is like way, we couldn't hear you. I don't know if it's me or everyone else, but I mean, last time you were fine.
To quote Verizon, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, again, I'm Harry Colbert Jr. I'm the editor-in-chief of North News in North Minneapolis, which District 4, the Bryn Mawr neighborhood, is a portion of North Minneapolis. So thank you.
So good to meet you all. Beautiful. So what is going to be the structure of the setting, the interview?
Yes.
Each one of you going to ask, or just give me an
Yes.
idea?
Yeah, so we'll just start with having you introduce yourself and just, tell us why you're running. And this is more of just conversation. We just want to learn about you. We just talked to Krista, who's also running for the 7th state, and our goal is we're doing our awareness week about the importance of education and elections, especially, the Board of Education in Minneapolis. And, we really want to engage people because we know that with everything else that's happening in the world right now, we don't want to leave education as more of left behind issue for some other time. And we just want to make sure that people vote for the part of, education, and local elections matter. So that is, why we're here. We are community members. We just, want to ask you some questions, but we'll start with your introduction and background and why you decided to run. Thank you for asking for the clarification.
Yes, no, thank you. So whenever we're ready.
Yeah. The floor is yours. Yeah, if you can introduce yourself, your background, and why you're running.
Okay. Thank you for hosting this conversation. I love conversations. I hate forums. That's just a little uncomfortable. So this is refreshing. My name is Adriana Cerrillo, and I'm originally from Reynosa, Tamaulipas, Mexico. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I'm an entrepreneur, and a community activist and an organizer. Back in '88, we moved to Brownsville, Texas. And the reason that we did is because my youngest brother is a US citizen. And it's kind of ironic now that I go back and kind of revisit, the reason that we moved to the US is because he was in need of special education services. So my mother decided that it was best for him to receive those services in the United States. I lived in Texas for 3 years. I attended high school in Texas. And my first day of welcome me to America. I was actually in my home economics class, and I remember clearly that my home economics teacher was handing out a quiz. So now, keep in perspective, I'm new to the country. I don't know the language. And I was asking a classmate for help. And the teacher, kept interrupting her, like she wouldn't allow her to help me. And I didn't understand, like what is going on in here. And the teacher said something, and everyone in the classroom went like, was in shock. And I'm like, what did she say? And she's like, don't worry, never mind. She didn't say anything. And I'm like, I think I have the right to know what she said because it relates to me. So she said, well, she said that she doesn't understand why people like you come to this country. So I was like in shock. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Right. And so, I graduated from high school. I have no recollection, from that class, from that moment on, honestly. I moved to Florida and I lived in Florida where I got married and had my daughters. And I want to share this little story of how I got so involved in helping communities in need. Back in 2007, a friend of mine asked me to visit a young mother of 3 who was in the hospital. She was in need of medical attention, but she didn't have health care. And I promised I would help her. And while I was looking into options, they kicked her out of the hospital, like literally. And to make a long story short, I ended up founding a nonprofit to save her life and the life of her children. And ever since, I've been heavily invested creating change and also pushing for policy to include communities of color. So here I am in Minnesota. I've been here for 7 years. And like I mentioned, I'm a business owner. So what I have been doing is contract work for different nonprofits. And currently, for the last 2 years, I was a family advocate. And I also have custody of one of my nephews. And he's a student at Emerson. And through him, and also the experiences of me being a family advocate, I have seen and experienced directly the oppression and the systematic racism that is so vivid in Minneapolis Public Schools.
Both you.
Go ahead.
Both you and the person against whom you're running have equity as a cornerstone of your agendas. How do you plan as a school board member, if elected, to achieve that goal of equity?
Thank you for that question. And it's when it comes to equity, I feel that so many times, within the system comes up with these fancy words to achieve the needs of our community, mostly communities of color. So how do I plan to do that? I've been doing the work. I actually, like I mentioned, I'm a guardian and I'm a parent at Emerson. So I'm a site council and PTA member as well in there. And for me, equity means providing the resources for our students. That means allocating funding for specific things, like, resources for teachers, also for after school programs, before and after school programs for our children, and specifically for children that are behind academically. And bringing parents to the conversations. To me, it is just ludicrous that the system never includes our voices. Actually, because of through the CDD, I was a big advocate confronting Minneapolis Public Schools to ensure that they provided interpreters for our families. So that was like the beginning of, the going back and forth and ensuring that they did bring the voices of the community that are affected directly. So I bring the perspective of I've been in the trenches already, and I see things differently.
What do you think the responsibility or the role of a school board member is? What is your understanding of what it is right now, and how you will be different than, like what do you think it is right now? Like, and what do you think you're different, you know, after you got elected?
Well, it's the Minneapolis Board of Education is responsible for selecting the superintendent and ensuring that he or she, you know, is meeting the standards. Also, you know, to evaluate his work. So, I mean, it's the Board of Education is just a board that oversees the work, right? And also the budget, you know, how the budget and the curriculum and the personnel and the facilities. I mean, when it comes to the work of the board, you know, it's just very much the way I see it and the way it is very formal, right? But to me, the work gets done being with our families, being present, being at the schools, being at every single meeting, you know, at Emerson, at Watson, at Bryn Mawr, at Kenwood, at Jefferson, at Whittier, and even City View. You know, with the work gets done engaging our community. So that's very much a big difference, you know. I work for myself. I don't work for the system. I don't represent the system.
Thank you, Adriana. A follow-up from that, I asked the other candidate too, if you can speak to what your actual strategies will be or look like to engaging parents, to engaging students and community members, to really hear their voices, empower them to voice what's going on, and then create change from what you're hearing. And what about your strategies stand out from maybe other candidates?
Okay. Thank you for that question. It's a little bit like, you know, hard for me to say, well, how we'll do it. I've been doing it. Like I mentioned, you know, I'm a guardian at Emerson, and I was very instrumental in transforming our site council and PTA membership as well, because we didn't have communities of color. Like to begin with, like 70% of our students are students of color, and we didn't have equitable representation. So how I foresee it is like doing the incredible work that we are doing at Emerson and replicate that throughout District 4 schools. Like I'll give you another example. For the first time, we have the PTA president is a brown mom, and the vice president is a brown teacher. So I've been coaching the president, her name is Elena, and I have permission to use her name, you know, since I came to Emerson, because to me, it's about lifting one another up, because so many times, you know, I speak from experience as well myself, we are put into these bodies that to me represent nothing but white supremacy. Most of our community don't know how to be effective in these entities. So I have been very supportive of Elena for her to take leadership as the new president. So I'm super excited about that. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think like one of the things I want to ask is, you know, what is maybe you talked about some of your strategies too, and it could be a follow-up question, but if you can name maybe like one or two, like 2 to 3 goals, like you say, I want to accomplish those goals, and what are the roadblocks to those goals you can see now or you can imagine to be on the way?
The more I get invested in this work, Osman, I see that it's so important, for example, that we build the community around our schools. For example, you know, at Whittier, what are the different businesses and even places of worship that we can like partner up with? You know, businesses, local leaders that live around there. How do we bring and engage community leaders that are already invested in doing the work in our community? You know, and I go back into speaking from my own personal experience, you know, because I've been doing the work at Emerson. We have an incredible partnership with St. Mark's Cathedral that we, before COVID, we used to use their space to do our community events, you know. So if we hosted, for example, a posada or a Day of the Dead celebration, we use their kitchen space for free cost, you know, and we fundraise money for our school. So for me, it's to continue doing, you know, building our schools and neighborhoods in a holistic approach.
North High School is being looked at as a possible tech site and this was a board action that they've been looking at over the past school year. Do you approve or disapprove of North High School becoming a technical high school?
I'm a firm believer of what the community wants and what the students want. You know, I just look at things differently. You know, my background is in community organizing and listening to the voices of the people that are directly affected by it. So for me, you know, my opinion could be, first of all, I would not be representing North High, you know, so I feel that for me to have an opinion would be a little arrogant. That's where I stand.
But as a board member, you would have a vote, correct?
Absolutely. And it's already on the making. Remember that. And for what I know, the board member that represents North High, she does support this, you know, and I feel like, you know, not being a person that lives in the north side, you know, I don't know the needs. You know, for me, it will be if I have a vote in it, it will be engaging with the community, you know, because it's, and that has been, I feel, very much the problem, you know, with any elected officials, you know, and specifically when it comes to education, you know, people that are affected need to be part of those decision, you know, making processes in conversations.
Question for you, Adriana, about, you know, I really appreciate that you are bringing this background of activism and engaging with the community and those most impacted by issues to the table and really listening to their voices. I'm wondering though, because you won't be doing this work in silo, you'll be doing it with other organizations, institutions, and entities that may not share those same values. Can you speak to how you've been able to build kind of cross-sector coalitions in order to effectively create change and what that's looked like?
And, you know, that's part of life, right? We all have different, you know, like, you know, ideologies and beliefs. But at the end of the day, you know, what is the vision? And to me, the vision, it should be the liberation of our children, that our children get an equitable education, that they are provided with the resources that they do need and deserve. You know, so if we keep that vision high and up front and surround ourselves and our actions and our thinking for the future generations. And one of my strengths is that I actually have been able to do a lot of work in collaboration and achieve a lot of incredible things. You know, I started back in Florida doing that, you know, being part of coalitions that have the vision of, for example, here in Minnesota, I was part of the coalition for the driver's licenses for all. I also was part of the introduction of the Sanctuary Now platform that provided protection for undocumented and refugee communities. So we did a lot of work in collaboration with community leaders, but also with city elected officials, the city attorney, with the chief of police. You know, so for me, I keep myself humble and remind myself that this is not about me. This is about our children.
Thank you.
How actually that's a good question for me is like, how do you engage people who don't have kids at the district right now, or do you have to be parents to, you know, to vote for the Minneapolis school council?
That's a very good question, Osman, because we've been doing a lot of phone banking, and you know, it is really like ironic, you know, how like in District 4 specifically, that we have for the vast majority very diverse schools, except for Kenwood. Very diverse, you know, immigrant families, you know, children of all backgrounds and colors. But the people that actually vote for this position to represent our schools, 90% of them are white. So how do we engage? It's like we've been phone banking, we have been doing surveys, and so many times getting back like, you know, well, I don't have children, you know, in the district. But, you know, don't you want to be part of the change for the future generations? because that's, what has been going on a lot here in Minneapolis. We cannot deny the fact of what we went through, right? And what we are going through. And that so many people go out to the streets and march and demonstrate. And especially people that are not affected. They want to be part of the change, but they don't know how. So, we tell them, we listen to them, but also make them aware that their vote does count to, be to bring an individual that will be doing the work, for our children and our families.
Thank you. Because I feel like a lot of times, again, I can't say enough how much we really want to engage people for the local elections and how important it is.
I know, right?
And
it's
what I
like,
have to say, I voted earlier, and I mean, like looking at the ballots, I saw like the school board is on the front of the ballot this year, which is different. I think in the past it used to be you have to fill up your ballot to vote for a school board member. I think that is still true for the churches and like other local elections, but this year I have seen, which is a good sign for me. I'm like, for school board candidates, I'm like, that's a good sign, because a lot of times people don't flip the ballot and just forget about, the candidates running for school board. So that's really great.
and there it has been, I feel, one of those things, like I'm a mother of 2 daughters, and I raised 2 stepdaughters. My baby is 23 years old. Okay. And, I wouldn't have been as aware and invested if I didn't have my nephew. That's a reality. And I feel like, there's a purpose, from, up above, whatever it is, because I started doing family advocacy work.
Yep.
And 3 months later, I get custody of my nephew, so what are the odds? I'm like, oh, wow. And the seat of white supremacy is in our education system. It is designed that way, so that is specifically like children, people like that look like us and children that look like us don't have the opportunity to, be successful and to thrive and to not be the victims of the system. Yeah, so I'm hopeful, that we are bringing that awareness nowadays, like it's right there. We want to create change for the future. We must invest today. And that means allocating funding for what is needed.
So in order, following up on that, in order to create a successful individual that will come out of the Minneapolis Public Schools, what policy in particular can you advocate for that will ensure that a student will graduate not only with a diploma, but also with the skills needed to either enter into a career or enter into post-secondary education?
Well, Harry, to me, it's like very simple. It's about allocating funding for resources, right? And what are those resources? Like, and it should be, hiring more teachers of color, and also stuff that reflects, the student population, right? And there are so many different things, but to me, what I'm very passionate about is that we bring solutions, not suspensions, because that's a huge, tainted and horrible negative persecution that we have, for children of color. That is real. The school to prison pipeline, it's real. Also, I'm very passionate about bringing more counselors, therapists, on site, and also hiring full-time community family liaison out of the schools. So for me, what are the policies ensuring that we allocate money, for these policies, but also like something else that to me is, very hypocritical, that for example, Minneapolis Public Schools, we have a huge diverse community that many of our community members don't speak the language. So when it comes to policy, be mindful that none of those policies, Harry, are translated in different languages. None of them. So to me, I have a little hard time like having a conversation about policy because it's like, no comprende. So it's ensuring to allocate money. You know, it's about funding.
I want to recognize, Osman, that Jeanette is on here too. Hi, Jeanette.
Yes, I just learned how to promote somebody from attendance to panelists. So just we had Jeanette had some tech difficulties earlier, and I apologize, Jeanette, for not
Okay.
able to.
No, it's good to be here. Been listening. Thank you, everyone, for all your great questions. Thank you, Andrea.
You have Andrea here, so and if you have questions, you can ask. But we really appreciate your time for all of you. Good to be here, and
I think just a follow-up to what Harry was saying and Andrea's answer is around, it is about funding. And how, as a board member, do you work with the administration to sort of do that line item budgeting with them that actually puts the resources where the needs are, and contend with the fact that you are going to have, and I'll just be honest, you're going to have some loud white parents who don't want you to move around the programs that their children currently benefit from. So it's like, how do you sort of both work with the current administration, but also there will be schools, there will be parents that don't want, those are the sacred cows. So as a board member, you know, it's that, how do you see your role in that?
Yeah, that's, and I feel that it's, you know, at the end of the day, the vast majority of community members in Minneapolis want what is best for all children.
Yeah.
We just don't know how to, right? And then when it affects us directly, I've been in conversations with parents from Kenwood, you know, that, I mean, they're just very privileged. They're just, you know, very, I tell them they're very blessed, to say the least, right? But also carry the privilege of not having to struggle like many of our communities, like a Jefferson, you know, where a lot of our students, their families are immigrants, you know, Latinos, African Americans, Somalis, and we just, you know, live in a different reality. So for me, it's like, okay, so how do we collaborate together to allocate that funding? It's gonna be uncomfortable to some people, but I'll be a fearless advocate for the communities and children that need it the most. And even if some people are uncomfortable, you know, it's we have to listen to the voices of the families from these schools, and to ensure that I'm engaging with them so that they are also being loud for their children, so that they also are being empowered to advocate for their kids' needs.
Yeah.
Does that respond your question?
I think so, yes.
I have a question for you, Adriana. I'm wondering, so you laid out a bunch of different really great ideas and solutions and initiatives that you want to take as a school board member. I'm wondering, and Osman kind of asked this of the last candidate, what are your first 100 days going to look like? What are the main areas of priority that you'll focus on, whether it's 100 days or that first year, knowing that you can't do everything right away, right?
Wow. Let me take a note of that and make sure that every day. check mark.
Every 100 days, that calendar, right?
Wow. Okay. I love that. I do love that, Amanda, because that, you know, gives me a total different perspective and understanding. You know, I'm a very optimistic person. You know, I try to be, you know, I know what it's like to be oppressed by the system. You know, I live it on a daily basis. You know, it's I lost my mother 2 weeks ago, you know, and
So sorry to hear that.
Thank you. She doesn't have
condolences.
to be there. The system
I'm
killed
so
her.
So sorry.
Because, you know, she's self-deported, you know, 2 years ago, and if she had the opportunity, or if she had a document to go back and forth, you know, she will be here. So to me, I'm running for office because this is personal to me, you know, and also that I'm affected as well, because, I see this not only through my nephew, but with other children. And it happens to be that our children of color. So how will my first 100 days look like? It's serving the communities, being present in the schools, engaging with families, students, but also staff and administration and the leadership. Because, we're gonna bring solutions collectively. And that's the biggest opportunity that we have in Minneapolis, because we are a very special place where we literally walk the world to understanding that white supremacy is real and that oppression is real, and that we have that opportunity to change things around, but we need to do it collectively. So my vision is serving the constituents, but also serving the families that live and bring their children to District 4 schools.
Thank you so much. And again, our deepest condolences for the loss of your mother. So thank you for being here.
That's it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Harry, go ahead.
So when we're talking about equity versus equality, extracurricular activities, sports, the arts, programs of that nature, it's my understanding that pretty much across the board, they're equally funded. And so if you have a student at Southwest, the school gets X amount of dollars for their athletic program, the same as a student or school at, say, Henry or North or Edison or whatever. But clearly the different schools have different economic structures around them, support systems. Southwest boosters generally bring in more than North Community High boosters. Would you advocate for a different structural makeup in terms of funding when it comes to these extracurricular activities that enhance the students' overall well-being?
Yes, thank you, Harry, for the question. And, I'm gonna go back to my own experience. Yesterday we just had our PTA and Site Council meeting at Emerson, and as we build those entities the way they should, be and function. Very good question. To me, it was in January of this year that we actually created in partnership with parents, students, and teachers an after-school program, because and we actually brought a local artist of color to do that after-school program with our kids. And Harry, to me, it's like, oh my goodness. So I actually asked that question, like, who gets to decide what those after-school programs look like or what they are when we don't have like even the voices of the students? We're having like a huge issue right now because of COVID. The community ed, which is the department that channels, those programs, they're having a hard time like recruiting students. So I asked, are you like engaging or doing surveys with our students and our families? And that's not the case. So advocating for funding for before and after school programs, absolutely. But it should be first and foremost listening to the voices of the families and the children's as well. Okay, if we have academics and also, sports or art, or you name it, it should be something that is providing our children with what they need.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And I think we are about 5:30. I know you have to do some campaigning. We don't want to take a lot of your time, and we have a few days left for the campaign. And
we're just starting. Come on.
yeah, but I know how those 30 minutes, 1 hour are, as a former candidate myself. I know how like last week of that can be hectic. But my only last question to you is, why are you the best candidate? How will you tell people to vote for you who are not just 4 of us here, but just who will be listening to you? Like, why are you the best candidate for District 4?
And I hate that question.
I have to ask.
I know. I know. Nothing around, Krista. I think she's a wonderful human being, But I go back again, I'm an entrepreneur. I work for myself. I have that luxury and ability to be able to work my schedule to whatever, is a priority to me. For me to serve on the Board of Education will be my #1 priority. I don't work for the system and I don't represent the system. And I come from that fresh perspective of being on the other side of the table. Like now, as an elected official, being able to work implementing policies that make sense for our community. I'm directly affected by this. As I mentioned, I'm running for school board because this is personal to me. I have seen the oppression and we have lived the oppression. And, you can talk about theory, but practice is something that you cannot go to school and graduate from. So that's where I am.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and for joining us. And we wish you the best of luck for the next few days, 13 days exactly left for the election. And yeah, we really wish you the best of luck. And unless someone else has any other questions, this is for me. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Very
you.
nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. And I'm looking forward to working with you all, especially nothing but Harry. I want to connect with you.
All right.
You live in that area where, you are very influential, and it's a pleasure to meet all of you. Thank you for
It's
all.
lovely. Thank you so
Pleasure
much.
as well.
Bye.
So
Thank you so much.
Gracias. Buenas noches.
And the panelists, thank
Good
you,
night.
all of you. Thank you for joining me for this. And Harry, thank you for putting that, on the Northern News, and also Amanda, thanks for joining me, this for the last 2 hours. Jennifer, thanks for joining for the whole week. we have one left tomorrow. We have
Wow.
a 4 p.m. With Sharon, who's running for District 2.
That's right.
But if you cannot join that, it's totally understandable, Janet, which you have been really
No,
with
gotcha.
me Monday, and
I gotcha.
so thank you
I
to all of
gotcha.
you. I really appreciate
Absolutely.
your partnership to raise awareness about education, and especially the Board of Education, how local elections matter. And what Adriana said, I hope to work with all of you, regardless of what comes up, next 13 days, right?
Yes.
It's really important to keep up the work locally, and keep encouraging our voters, our people here. So
Absolutely. Thanks for having us. Really appreciate it. Awesome.
Thank you very much.
thank you. Awesome. Thanks. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Adios.